Yes, this is Gator J. It's a very somber Thursday. Now, it's 90 minutes until week 14 kicks off with the Patriots visiting the Steelers. This is your Thursday night pregame show. Let's get it.
Uh. Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, yes. Welcome into the Dynasty Gambit and welcome into what is sure to be the most exciting football game of the year. The year being 1923. It is very, very possible that we could have a fourth straight game for New England, not allowing 10 points or more and losing a ball game. Unprecedented. I am your host, Gator J. As always, you can find me at FantasyJ77 on Twitter. I am joined by my faithful co-host, Brian at Vandegrad92 over there on Twitter, and Steven at Target Shares on Twitter. Brian, how was your week, sir? You were absent last week, taking care of some personal stuff. Good Thanksgiving for you?
It was. How about you, Gator?
We fried a turkey like we do here in the South. Ate the hell out of it, left nothing but bone. Dogs were pissed.
Yeah, no, it was a great Thanksgiving. Had to make a tough situation. Last Thursday, primary reason that I wasn't here is we put my mom into memory care, which is never a decision that two sons want to make, because unfortunately she didn't make her own, and we realized she wasn't getting that much better. So let's just think about football. And while some may not care as much this Thursday, my can still be 8-4. So,
and they are this year's version of the Minnesota Vikings from last year when it comes to one score games. But Steven, how was your week, sir?
It was okay. I mean, I lost in my home league because of Tank Dell's season-ending injury, which stinks because he was just having such a good year. It was just so fun to watch him. But advanced again somehow in the Scott Fish Bowl. I'm in round 3, even without Fields and more last week. So I'm gonna need a big week because I'm like, of the 1,000 teams, I'm like 968 or something. I'm like right on the border, and you have to be in the top 500 now to advance. So gonna need a big game from everybody.
Gonna be an interesting week. I think you're probably gonna need somewhere. You're probably gonna need somewhere in what the 300 point range now.
I don't
on
know.
an average. I would guess it's
upper 200s for sure. We'll see.
Speaking of Tank Dell, I just want to put this out there, my own personal opinion, but can we stop arguing the fact that wide receivers need to be interior linemen and blocking on the interior line? We've seen it a couple times, and this bright young star was doing his job, doing what he was asked to do, and just got rolled up. And it absolutely sucks, not only for fantasy, but it sucks for the Houston Texans and what they were absolutely building down there in Houston. So just a little PSA for myself there. Anyway, before we get to the barn burner that is going to be tonight's game, the Patriots at the Steelers, let's talk some stock up, stock down from week 13. Steven, let's start with you.
Yeah, so it leads in, the Tank Dell injury leads to, I think my stock up player is Nico Collins. He gets that big boost in projected volume with Dell out. And then we've already seen what he can do without Dell mostly in the game. He had 191 receiving yards last week. Absolutely massive day. I really like the ESPN analytics. Their kind of receiver tracking metrics. He's 6th overall of all receivers in that metric. And he gets the Titans twice. Their kind of leaky pass defense during the fantasy playoffs. So big weeks ahead, I think, for Nico.
Yeah, but he also has the Jets this weekend.
Yeah. But
and the Browns in 2 weeks.
I know Browns week 16 is tough, but Titans 15 and 17.
Yeah, but let me ask you this way, and Brian, I want you to weigh in after Steven answers this. But does it concern you at all that Dell, of course, is not going to be there? So now, for this weekend with the Jets, for next weekend. I mean, I know it's the Titans for week 15 and week 17, I believe it is.
Yep.
For those 2 weeks, and I know they traded Bird, so they're depleted in the secondary. But doesn't it feel like it's going to be all onto Nico Collins? And now we're back into the 2022 season. A better quarterback, of course, this year, but back to the 2022 season for Nico Collins without having that secondary. Or is Brown going to be that guy? Either. Steve?
Oh, sorry. I thought you were talking to Brian. That's my fault. I think Noah Brown isn't as good as Tank Dell. I do think he can be a reasonable complementary piece. And then I don't have like super high hopes for a Brevin Jordan, but I think he could be all right as well. And then I just think Nico Collins is really good. I think he's actually a really talented player, and that increase in volume, I think he can handle it. Yes, he'll have tougher coverages, but I think he'll be fine.
I'm glad you brought up Brevin Jordan there, because I do believe that Dalton Schultz is going to end up being out this week.
Yeah, and I don't think Brevin Jordan takes like a ton of the work, but he's still okay and he's there. I don't know. I think the passing offense will be okay with Stroud.
Brian, anything you want to add on the Tank Dell, Nico Collins?
Well, obviously, I hate it for Tank, but Nico will be just fine. Noah Brown will absorb some targets, and like Steven said, so will Brevin Jordan. He had close to 10 PPR fantasy points last week, and he's been a highly touted tight end himself. And Schultz may be out this week, but there's still several more weeks to go after that. So they'll find a way. And last week they got Dameon Pierce a little bit more involved too. So they've got pieces. Got a lot more pieces than any of us thought at the beginning of the season. That's for sure.
Yeah, for sure.
They got more pieces than New England does, for sure. Brian, who is your stock up this week?
It's a biased stock up on record. I own Nico, and also on my stock up. He been back 2 weeks, and he's had close to 300 yards rushing, 3 touchdowns, and an additional 9 catches for 81 yards. So he by volume alone, both him and Nico are going to be fine.
Yeah.
And for the season, though he missed 4 weeks in that same league I'm talking of, he's top 10 in fantasy, even though he's missed 4 weeks. So
wow,
he just been off.
Yeah, what I love about Kyren Williams right now is that he's also getting passing work, which is, huge. Getting not just, 5 and 6 targets each week the last 2 weeks. And, of course, he had the 2 touchdowns receiving, but then he had the 1 touchdown rushing last week. So he's getting a lot of volume too. And I think a lot of that has to do with Cooper Kupp being iffy at best right now. So
Puka got hurt too. I think I saw that he practiced today, so I think he'll be okay.
Well,
but
yeah, he got hurt in the first half and came back in the second half and threw up 100 yards and said, I just
just kidding.
They said he went to the locker room, but I think it was more of like a phone booth. Remember back in the day when Superman would walk in the phone booth as Clark and come out as Superman, kind of thing. That's what happened, truly and honestly. My stock up again this week is Jordan Love, QB9 on the year as of right now. 4 straight games, 20+ fantasy points per game. And he's done it against some very, very good defenses in that stretch as well. But after a great performance on Thanksgiving Day against the Lions, he backed it up on primetime at home versus the Chiefs. And in those 2 games, he was 47 of 68, 535 yards, 6. Count them. 1, 2, 3. Not 1, not 2, not 3, not 4, not 5, but 6. 6 touchdowns for your boy Jordan Love. With no running game, and again, no, basically a zero from the running game, and no presence, veteran presence in the wide receiving room.
Yep.
What's his reward? Yet another primetime football game, Monday Night Football at the Giants, home versus Tampa, and then at Carolina.
Ooh,
you
love that.
The gift that keeps giving. Absolutely, Brian. The gift that keeps giving. Listen, for your fantasy playoffs, if you have Jordan Love, absolute absolute must start.
I think what I thought was really interesting with Jordan Love too is that in the last 2 weeks, the Packers have been pass rate over expected of plus 10% or higher. They're just giving him the ball and they're leaning on him. I mean, like you said, the run game was non-existent, but they've been passing way more than any other like typical team would in the situations they've been in. So they're really leaning on him.
Yeah, whatever he's doing in practice, whatever he did the 74 years prior sitting behind Aaron Rodgers, I mean, it is absolutely done wonders for this kid. And he's proven that Green Bay made the absolute correct decision and moving on. Now, I heard this stat, and I don't remember where I heard it. But so I apologize. I can't give credit, but the average age for Green Bay starters is like 24 and a half.
I believe it. They're all
Wow.
There are like so many rookies and second-year players on that team, and then Love's still young too.
It is
He's what, 25?
Yeah, it's insane. Insane. Moving over to Stock Down. Brian, who you got for Stock Down this week?
Well, I kind of feel bad about writing him up now because he's currently in concussion protocol, so his stock is even further down than I even thought of at first. But my guy is Amari Cooper. He's had over 3 weeks. He's had a total of 81 yards receiving and 0 touchdowns. So, and even last week, you can't blame that on Flacco. Flacco looked competent at least. So
he was throwing bombs out there, mostly to Elijah Moore.
For a 38-year-old man, he did just fine. So, yeah. It's Amari Cooper, unfortunately.
I really had high hopes with the quarterback situation that they've had, that Joe Flacco was going to be able to absolutely make Amari Cooper relevant in fantasy, and just doesn't look like it's going to happen. There's other ideas there. Steven, who do you got?
Yeah, this one's sad too. It's Austin Eckler. I think down in just comparison to what you were hoping when you drafted him, which was a really high draft pick that you used on him. Chargers, they're bottom 6 in rushing efficiency on the season. And then if you look at the advanced stats for Eckler, they're also not great. He's got a negative rushing yards over expected. So just the average running back would be better in his situations. And then he's bottom 12 among all rushers in the success rate stat from Next Gen Stats. His matchups look pretty good the rest of the way, but now Staley came out today and said, hey, we're going to look at our running back snaps and see like if we can get someone else more involved than Eckler, was basically the point of what he said, which is crazy. And he's 29, and when the season starts next year, you just wonder, did the floor kind of bottom out on Eckler?
Yeah, I mean, it sucks because Eckler was such a great player, fantasy player, not just football, not just NFL, but for fantasy purposes, such a great player. And then, gets the injury, has a good week 1, gets the injury, and then it just kind of, against the Jets and against Detroit, okay, maybe he's back. And then it's not even been meh. It's been ugly for the last few weeks. And it's as a whole, because, when you think about the Chargers, that is a pass first team. And Eckler's getting the targets. He's getting a couple receptions, but on the year, 295 yards receiving. That's not Eckler-ish.
No.
You look at his rushing yards, he's less than 500. That's not Eckler-ish.
Yeah.
Now, I will say this. I have to double check it, but I am 99% sure Eckler hasn't even had 1,000-yard rushing year in his career.
Wow.
But he does. He makes it up. He makes up for it in the receiving game.
Yeah.
But here's something else that's interesting to me. On the year, a total of 5 touchdowns, 4 on the ground, 1 in the air. That's it. That's all he's got.
Yeah. That's not what you
and
want.
I'm sure other fantasy owners were in the same position, but I spent countless sleepless hours the night before the draft trying to decide between him and Tyreek, and thank goodness I went Tyreek. So
yeah, Exactly. If you went the other way, that's gotta be tough. Watching Tyreek go for 2,000, receiving yards this season, and then, yeah. What's crazy is that the Chargers, it's not like they have a ton of other weapons. You would think you'd be getting a ton of usage with Mike Williams out, with Palmer out. It's Jalen Guyton, Keenan Allen obviously, but then like Jalen Guyton and a bunch of other guys that you're like, who are these guys?
Yeah, it's sad out there in LA. Does Staley get another year after this year? Do you think?
No,
This is.
I
it for
don't
him?
think so.
I wouldn't give him. Yeah, I would.
Does Herbert make it through?
I think Herbert's
Yeah.
okay.
But what is their record right now?
Currently sitting at 5-7.
It kind of depends on how they finish the season as to whether Staley's back or not. But Herbert will be back.
I would get rid of, personally, if I'm the owner of the Chargers, which I'm not. I'm getting rid of Staley either way. Personally,
Are you turning right around and putting what's the OC? I can't even remember.
I'm trying to get Johnson from the Lions. That's the OC that I want if I'm, or just anybody who could fix my defense, because that's been really the main
I
issue
was
for
going to
me.
ask. I mean,
Yeah.
Staley's come out and clearly said, he calls the defense.
And his defense,
There's
is
nothing
not
wrong
good.
with his defense. There's nothing wrong with his play calling. He said it.
Yeah.
Listen, if you don't believe the coach, then who are you going to believe?
Yeah, anyone else? Just my eyes looking at the scoreboard each week.
Jesus, good Lord. Bye weeks for this week. We only have 2. And guess what? The last 2 we have, thank goodness, Washington Commanders and the Arizona Cardinals. No Sam Howell, no Kyler Murray this week. Going to be quite interesting. Listen, we got the Patriots and Steelers tonight. You got Zappy. You got Trubisky. Maybe both of them could equal one of them.
The stars of the league.
the absolute stars of the league.
The best player on the bye may be Trey McBride.
Yes. Good call. Agreed.
I don't know. I would argue for Brian Robinson there.
Trey McBride's been so good.
He has.
But in regards to position, I'll still take McBride. So
that's fair. Very, very fair. Patriots at the Steelers. Steelers favored by 6, over under a whopping 30 points.
Yikes.
Back in 1920. Here we go. No forward passes allowed tonight. They are outlawing that any forward pass will be a 25-yard penalty. That per league sources. Now, what's the injury report look like tonight there, Brian?
Well, it's fairly full. You've got Pickett, who is out, Stevenson, who is out. I'm trying to think. We've got one more guy out, I believe.
2 more.
What do we have, Gator?
You got Demario Douglas and Keyshawn. Don't call him by his booty. So, yeah, you got a couple wide receivers. The other 2 wide receivers for New England, thankfully, will be there. Devontae Parker and Juju Smith-Schuster are both going to play. So, again, though, it's Devontae Parker and Juju Smith-Schuster. Bailey Zappi is active. In case you were wondering, he is active.
And the starter. That's important.
Yeah. Very, very important. Yeah,
he may not be the finisher, but he's definitely.
He may not be the finisher. That's right. That's real quick before we get too far into the game, Rogers got one for us today. Need one running back, full PPR, Ezekiel Elliott with a full workload, or A-Chain splitting carries with Mostert. Let's start with you, Brian.
How about we go with Steven? To me, this is kind of a no issue
It's
kind
gotta
of
be
answer.
A-Chan.
It's
you gotta plug him in. Yeah, it doesn't matter if he's splitting carries on that album. I think Zeke is bad, has been bad. I think the Patriots have an implied team total of 12. You could get lucky. Maybe he falls into the end zone. I think the odds are against you. I think you get 60 rushing yards on 20 carries and 2 receptions for 9 PPR points. But A-Chan could get you 9 PPR points on 1 play. So, yeah, A-Chan for me.
Yeah, it's A-Chan.
Yeah,
I don't care that he's splitting carries.
It's kind of like choosing between prime rib and ground beef. I mean,
I don't know
You
if
just
Zeke's
don't
ground
care if the
beef.
whole thing's there or not.
Yeah, I don't know if it's prime rib and ground beef. I would consider it more like prime rib and it's not ground beef that Taco Bell uses. I don't know what that is, but it's not. That's what Elliott is become. No, give me A-Chain here. It's I don't care that he's splitting carries. Like Steven said, he could get you what Elliott's going to get you on one play.
Yep.
What Elliott gets the whole game. Even and actually, to be quite honest,
Yeah.
when you look at everything with A-Chain, the lesser carries that he gets, the more productive he is.
Yeah, Elliott sunk to the point he's averaging 3.8 yards per carry. So if he gets 20 carries, he might get 70 yards. A-Chain could get that in one play.
Yeah.
In the games where A-Chan's been healthy and has had 10 plus carries, I think he hasn't been worse than like RB6 on the week. And I think he could get 10 carries. So yeah, plug him in, and I think he's going to be
had
great.
17 last week, I think.
Yeah.
Well, and that's about where I think that's about where the cap they want to have. They don't want to go over that, 17, 18 mark on a regular basis.
It was a weird split because it was mostly in the second half. I mean, they split in the first half, and then it was mostly A-Chan in the second half. I don't know if that was just like getting them back up to speed after being hurt and just kind of like getting them. It doesn't matter. You're playing them, but it was weird.
Jamie in the chat, what's up, guys? Sorry, I'm late. Got way too excited for tonight's game. I mean, I can understand where Jamie's concern is here. I mean, he's a Browns fan, so this game here. I mean, this is like the I don't know, Super Bowl. Peter's got one for us real quick. Jaden Reed or Mingo? He is desperate.
Oh, no, don't be too hard on Jaden Reed, but that's your answer, Jaden Reed.
Mm-hmm.
That's funny. Pete's actually a friend of mine. Yes, Pete, Jaden Reed.
Okay, wait. Okay, he's a friend of yours. Is he playing you in a league this week?
He's not. Okay. This is honest advice. Yeah, take
Okay.
Jaden Reed.
Yeah, it's Jaden Reed. That's the quick, easy answer. We still don't know what Carolina's doing with Mingo. That passing game they want Mingo to become a thing.
Yeah.
Adam Thielen is still somewhat there, I guess. Here's the problem, though. At least for this week, Carolina's playing New Orleans. And that's going to be a rough matchup all around for Carolina.
Yep.
Especially with the passing game. That defense in New Orleans is pretty damn good. So yeah, it's Jaden Reed with the New York Giants this week as well.
I don't know how y'all feel, but talent-wise, I think Mingo and Jaden Reed are pretty similar. But in a situation like that, I always go with the better offense, period. And then after that, I go matchup next.
Yeah.
So.
I will say, I think I would pick Reed as the slightly more talented player. I will say Mingo in the last couple of weeks, his peripherals have been pretty good. It hasn't really turned into too much, but what did he have, like 10 targets last week? He's absolutely dominated the target share and the air yards there the last couple of weeks for Carolina. But then does it matter because that passing offense is so terrible that I think you just, especially with the way that Love's playing, I think you take Jaden Reed. I also like Jaden Reed's kind of like rushing stuff too. He's gotten some carries recently.
Yeah, that's the plus side to Reed is he's also getting some carries and they are finding a way to get him involved and get him get the ball in his hands. So Peter, I hope you are still out there because now if you haven't seen it before, you are fixing to see Steven go on his weekly rant. News and notes for tonight. We're going to start with Steve, and we are pulling up yet another phenomenal graph. And if you want to see these graphs in more details where you can actually sit there and just look at the graph, go over to goingfor2.com. Steven's article is on there on a weekly basis, and he has more than just this graph in there. There are plenty more. Steven, go ahead.
Yeah, so this one is interesting. So this one's mostly about offensive play calling tendencies. So the x-axis there is passing efficiency. So ideally, you're on the right of the graph. That's where all the best passing offenses are. The y-axis is what we're calling pure drop back frequency. So by that, it's basically like, hey, you're excluding stuff like RPOs. You're excluding play action. You're excluding screens. So just like a traditional like 5-step drop back, no screens, no run pass options, no play action. I think why I bring this up tonight is that both the Steelers and the Patriots are in the top left there. They're not efficient in passing, and they use a lot of pure dropbacks, which means they don't use a lot of play action or RPOs or screens. And I think the graph, you can kind of see this correlation where it's starting in the top left and then going to the bottom right. There's not a lot of teams there on the diagonals, which basically just means like the best offenses are using a lot of this because you're relying on less things to go right, in my opinion, if you're using play action or RPOs or screens. Like you're relying on less QB decision making, less even just offensive line blocking for some of those. And so, and this is really on the offensive coordinators for me. Obviously, Matt Canada already fired in Pittsburgh, and this is a whole season stat. But yeah, you would think the teams in the top left there, almost all of them have kind of poor quarterback play. You would think they rely more on these types of plays because, like I said, it relies less on the quarterback's decision making and offensive line blocking. But yeah, I just want to bring this up. Both the Steelers and the Pats in the top left, all the best offenses really in the bottom right, and then not a lot of other teams in the other quadrants, basically.
I just want to point out that I appreciate you making sure that the Buccaneers are in the correct.
Buccaneers are in the right one. Well, one, they have good play calling.
Well,
and two, Baker's been okay.
It's funny to me because when you look at these, you see Arizona, for instance, they've had the issue at quarterback to start with not having Kyler, but then the having Denver and then, of course, the Colts, almost dead center, is interesting. Seattle is right there as well. Looks like the Lions are as well. So
yeah, I think the Panthers and Jets are telling to me where it's like, okay, you have really bad quarterback play, but also really bad play calling. And then what would Bryce Young look like in kind of like a modern NFL offense with actual NFL receivers?
Not good.
It still might not be good, but I'd like to see it to give the guy any chance. I'd like to see it.
I'm loving the fact that I'm seeing, and I was pretty high on Dak, even during his bad season last year. I'm loving the fact that Dak is sitting there with another OC now doing it again.
Yeah. How about
so having one of his best seasons, and you think about him, and I know I'm going a little off tangent here with the teams, but you think about what Dak has done since the bye week, because that's when McCarthy took over the play calling prior to, and then now you still haven't sent me those graphs on where they were prior to it. So, but yeah, I would be interested in seeing that. Tennessee's another one that's quite interesting with a rookie quarterback but I'm loving the fact that Houston's there. So anyway, go check out Steven's article over there on goingfor2.com, and you will get more and more in depth there. All right, Brian, what are your news and notes for tonight?
I'm going to tell you, before we came on, he's actually the smartest of the three of us. So let's never get that wrong.
It's not even a question.
I don't know if that's true.
That's not even a question.
Did you see my Chrome Dome last week? I don't think you guys would say that.
No. We didn't say you were the richest. We know Vandigrad's the richest.
But no, and I also appreciate the fact that he mentioned that the Steelers have changed coordinators. And the thing that really sucks is 2 games ago, in this first game as OC, they did very well. Last week they got it incomplete because Pickett gets hurt mid-game, and now they're going to get another incomplete because Pickett's not playing. But I think their offense is going to be improved moving forward the rest of this year, and hopefully the OC will stay for next year, and they'll be better next year too.
Yeah.
But the Patriots just aren't. The Patriots are just not good. They may beat the Steelers, but they're just not good.
Yeah.
So, as for me, my news and notes, not that it even helps, but in terms of fantasy points given up, both the Steelers and Patriots are very stingy to opposing quarterbacks. So not only do we have 2 somewhat abysmal quarterbacks playing, they're playing against good defenses.
Yep.
And the best opportunity for either team to succeed is going to be against the run, But like we've been talking about, Zeke, even the show by himself will probably not be pretty. And the Steelers are kind of an interesting quandary here because Najee missed practice on Tuesday and Wednesday, but he's active for tonight.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm kind of curious where that leads us. I think Pittsburgh will be successful on the run, but who's going to be the leading runner? Is it going to be Warren? Because, like I said, Najee missed time. So kind of from a fantasy DFS perspective, I'm leaning more on the defenses and the running game than I am on the quarterbacks and the receivers. It's just my perspective on the game.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is and I look at it more. These games like this, I try to stay away from. I'm probably gonna go watch Hallmark after we get off tonight. There's no sense in really doing much else. But when I look at these games and you see these crazy over-unders, right? If it's a stupid like 60, 65, why is it going to be that? Yeah, we all have our thoughts on what it could be, but why is it going to be that? Why is it? What is Vegas saying? Right? Is there something that I'm not seeing? And then of course you do the exact same thing, or should do the exact same thing when you see this might be the lowest over-under on the year at 30.
Could be.
I can't remember any lower. That's for sure.
So that I
remember a 36. I don't even know if I remember much below that.
Yeah. I don't either. But then I go over to Vegas and I want to go, okay, why so low? What are you seeing, right? And so as somebody that does like to bet these lines, and I also play fantasy football, so I hate betting unders. I want points. I want points. Don't give me the under. I want the over. And then you have to sit there and go, can he even get to 160? Can this quarterback in the NFL get to 160 yards?
I think we decided 157, right? That's what it's going to be.
Yeah. But if you have to ask yourself that question, the answer is probably no. And then you have to go under, and that sucks.
But then what you ask yourself is, I mean, I don't think a lot of Zappy necessarily, but I mean, he's starting over Mac Jones. Mac Jones's numbers were never that low for the over under passing total.
That goes to the defense.
Yep.
And it's like I was telling Steven, prior to the show, offensively, fantasy wise, this could be a very, very, very sad game.
Yep.
But IDP wise, it could be a very lucrative game.
Or any league where you're starting a team defense, and that's me. I've got the Steelers a lot of places. So
that's a good pick. Yeah.
I mean, look, New England is number? What are they ranked right now, defensive wise? Oh, okay, they're not as good as I thought they were, but they are very good against the pass, right? So it's defense, okay, whatever. But no, I look at it more as an individual. So because if you have the reason that New England's not is because Judon's not there. I forget that Judon's out right now. So anyway, all right. So let's move on. Let's move on because now we're getting into some of these weeds. Steven, how do you see this particular game playing out, and why is it going to be so high scoring?
Yeah, well, I can't answer that second question, but so tendency-wise, so both teams, if you look at the whole season, they've kind of just leaned run heavy, but then for different reasons, both of them have been extremely run heavy the last 2 weeks, and the Steelers in particular have been really slow, just kind of like the third slowest neutral snap rate of any team in the last couple of weeks here. So you have two teams that, especially recently, wanted to run the ball a lot more than any other team would in those situations. Steelers want to be really slow. Steelers, especially recently, have been really effective running the ball. The Pats are number one in the league in stopping the run. They are the most efficient run defense right now in the entire league. So that's tough. And then the Patriots, they have Zeke. I don't think he's going to be very efficient. I think he's bottom 7 in rushing yards over expected. So my guess is just like a really extremely slow run heavy game with like limited efficiency on both sides with a large number of carries. I think the Patriots are going to lose. I think they're going to have to at least attempt to pass in the second half if they're down. So maybe Zappe can get to 150 passing yards. Really, the only thing I'm confident on, I think Deontay has a pretty good game for the Steelers. I think he's the primary pass catcher tonight. I think in the 5 full games he played with Trubisky last year, Deontay had a 32% target share. He didn't have fewer than 8 targets with Trubisky last season when he was the full-time starter there. So I think Deontay's the main guy. I think he can get over 42 or whatever the line is receiving yards. My guess is Steelers win 17-10.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Vegas is going to be calling because you are picking a very high number for
that's the under, right? Did I do the math right?
It's still the under. It's still the under.
I'll take the under. I think the Steelers win, but it's not a high-scoring game.
Brian, how do you see it?
Well, first of all, as a Steelers fan, I don't care if it's 6-0 or 46-0.
Yeah.
But the Steelers are going to win. That I do know. In regards to a Thursday night DFS situation, I agree with Steven. I've actually got Deontay as my team captain, and basically the rest. I feel like you need both defenses in there. Usually, a lot of people recommend taking both quarterbacks. I recommend you take neither. Absolutely neither. So then I've got 3 other players that I need to find a position for. The hardest decision for me was Devontae Parker versus Freiermuth. And now that I know that Juju's out, I'm going to have to lean towards Freiermuth because I don't think Juju or Devontae will do much. If Devontae was getting all the targets by kind of, just out of default, he would have had to do something. But I'm not sure he does much now. And last but not least, I took both Pittsburgh running backs. And to me, that's where maybe the most interesting part of the game is going to be is who gets some more carries. Even though they labeled Warren as the starter 2 weeks ago, Najee has continued to get the bulk of the carries. So kind of curious where that leads off. I'm kind of projecting Warren with 17 touches and Najee with 13. So we'll see.
I don't care. As long as both of them score, I have to start both of them in a league.
I'm curious, do we see Joey Porter Jr. shadow Devontae Parker? Is that like the strategy for the Steelers? And then do you see maybe Juju could be? I don't think Juju's very good, but could he be the better play if that's the case? I don't feel confident either way, but
I mean, I could see a world where that exists. Yeah. I don't think either one of them will get above 50 yards, though.
No, I don't think so either. Yeah. I'd be surprised if they got over 40.
Yeah.
Well, Brian, you brought him up. So let's talk about your player to keep an eye on tonight, Jaylen Warren.
Yeah, well, honestly speaking, I'm a longer term homer, but for tonight, which means I'm a Najee fan instead of Warren. But tonight, I just feel like Najee being nicked throughout the course of the week, Warren will get more run, just because. But I feel like in terms of Warren, he's an explosive back. I feel like down the stretch, Najee's where I want to be. If being a Steelers fan, I think you can rely on Najee still, even though everybody's tried to throw him under the bus. He just keeps kicking out and keeps moving. So
I just want to throw this out there at you, because you brought up what you thought it was going to be something like 17 touches for Warren and 13 or something like that for Najee.
13 for Najee.
Yeah. To rush attempts on DraftKings right now. Rush attempts for Jaylen Warren is at 10.5. And for Najee is at 13.5.
Yeah, I would leave Najee's total alone, but yeah. I would hit Warren's pretty hard.
Yeah, the reason I pulled this up is I did want to get over to just to give Deontay's at 42.5 receiving yards is the line there. So still I think he can hit it, but again, we're talking about a quarterback that does he throw the forward pass?
I'll say my bold take is Deontay gets 60 plus receiving yards tonight. He gets which is a third of Trubisky's projected passing yards, probably. But
if you just take that just as a prop, that's a plus 195.
I would, if I could bet that, I would probably wouldn't. I think about it. Not in Texas.
Not in Texas. Everything's bigger in Texas except betting.
Gambling.
What you got, Brian?
My big thing about Trubisky, he's the modern day version of Vinny Testaverde. I don't know if y'all remember, but Vinny was colorblind, and he often threw interceptions, and that's kind of Trubisky. He's got a pretty decent arm, but he doesn't know which way he's throwing it. So
yeah, it's tough.
Well, I don't know. I don't know you. So dyslexic is where you see things backwards. Maybe that's what he has, because he throws the ball the wrong direction sometimes.
Exactly.
Okay.
That'll make it tough.
So it does make it tough to move forward, as they would say, or move, in the right direction in a football game for your team. The one I'm going to jump in real quick. The one player that I am going to be keeping an eye on tonight is going to be Chris Boswell. I want to make sure that he keeps the foot warm. He's going to be kicking a lot tonight. And I know this is going for 2. We don't talk a lot about kickers, but in this particular Thursday night gauntlet of a game, we have to at least give Chris Boswell a little bit of respect. The other one is, I don't know if Rylan is even worth bringing up at this point, maybe for an extra point, because and I'll explain who's going to score later. But Chris Boswell is going to be my player to watch, and it's very, very, very sad that he is probably the best player on the field tonight.
I just hope Jeff will let us come back next week after you made that.
I mean, I probably just got fired, so let's go on and let's screw it all up now. Steven, who's your player to watch?
So I already talked about Deontay, but yeah, I think Deontay does okay. Also for the Patriots, I'll say Devontae Parker. With Zappy playing, Parker's peripherals looked pretty good. He had a 38% target share, 52% air yard share. So, I mean, those are both elite numbers. He got 9 targets last week, only got 4 receptions for 64 yards. I think the 2 main issues, I don't think he's very good. He's 125th out of 128. So very, very bottom in the ESPN Analytics open score, which I really like. He is almost the worst in the league. That also came without Demario Douglas. Luckily for him, no Douglas again tonight. And then also, I think he might get shadowed by Joey Porter Jr. I think it's a bad matchup. And so I don't think he gets 64 yards again. I think that's not going out on a limb saying that. I think the underdog line was 38 yards maybe. I didn't feel confident either way to take it over or under. So I left that one alone. But yeah, curious can Devontae Parker, does he keep getting that massive air yard share and targets? Does he do anything with it? He didn't really do that much given the volume last week. Curious what he looks like tonight.
And I guess the question, I didn't pay attention to but I'm guessing moving into tonight that Juju may not have played last week, or did he?
I can't remember, honestly.
I'm looking right now. Juju did play 92% of the snaps last week, 3 targets, 1 catch, 11
I was going to say, I don't remember his name being called, but he got 1 catch.
He didn't play much.
That would be why. Yeah. Well, he played a lot. He was out there.
He didn't do much anyway.
Yeah.
Jalen Reagor played 9% of the snaps, got targeted once, caught that ball for 11 yards. The exact same.
Good for the all-time Eagles great, Jalen Reagor.
That's right. That's right. Yeah. I just want to pull this up. Yeah. So he got 210. Jalen Reagor got you more volume right there. Awesome job. All right. I'm not volume, but more efficiency. Let's start with you on this one, Brian. Would you play Kincaid over Zeke or Deontay?
Well, who do the Bills play this week? Do we know?
Kansas City.
Should be a good game.
Should be a high-scoring game. Yeah, I'd go Kincaid over either one of them.
Steven?
Agreed. Yeah, I mean, I I just think your odds of a touchdown aren't the best tonight for basically any player. I do think Zeke probably has the best of the slate. Potentially, I guess we just had to pick someone, but yeah, Kincaid for me. I think really like Kincaid. I think it's go Kincaid.
Yeah, make it a clean
Almost.
sweep. It's Kincaid for sure. Kincaid with what the Bills are doing on the offensive side of things, it is throw the ball, 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 and then throw the ball.
Kind of in a down week, Kincaid over the last, say, 4 or 5 games is like 5 catches for 60 yards or so, and potential touchdown probably every other game. Deontay on his best day today, and I've actually, that's the only modern day jersey I've got, so he's my favorite player. But Deontay on a good day today would have those kind of lines. So you got to be thinking about ceiling a little bit. And Kincaid got the ceiling.
The best
Unfortunately,
ceiling.
Deontay's not.
Yeah, you look at the last 5 games, 2, 4, 6 games, last 6 games, minimum of 6 targets, minimum of 5 catches, minimum of 38 yards last week, but he's getting you double-digit fantasy points just about every single week. Which one does he sit? Does he sit Deontay or does he sit Zeke tonight? Let's start with you, Steve.
I personally don't love Zeke's touchdown odds, so I would pick Deontay. And I obviously have said that I think Deontay has a pretty good game. I would pick Deontay personally, unless you have some kind of crazy scoring settings of like points per rushing attempt, because then I think Zeke could get like 20 carries tonight. But yeah, if it's normal scoring settings, I'd say Deontay.
And I've got to go the same way. I mean, I think Zeke could get 20 touches. I just don't think they'll be worth much. So
I think it just depends on, for me, like, what do you think? Do you think he scores a touchdown?
Yes.
If you do, then I don't think he's terrible of a play.
Would be the only touchdown on of the game, I do believe. So yeah, I'm gonna stand on that island by myself. I would be sitting Deontay tonight, going up against a very good New England D. Zeke, Mostert, or a Seattle back?
Well, the worst thing about it is Seattle is very murky. Both Kenneth Walker and Charbonnet have missed practice time, so you don't really know who's going to suit up there. It could be even DJ Dallas leading the way. So that's the only thing that stinks. I mean, I don't really want to play Zeke, but in that situation, I might have to play him over DJ Dallas. But you just don't know who's going to start.
It doesn't matter. You're not starting Seattle's backfield right now. They've got this week against San Francisco. Guess what happens in 2 weeks? I believe. Hang on one second. I'm going to double check it, but that's right. They played San Francisco 2 weeks ago. I knew they were like back to back. They had San Francisco. It's just insane that going, and this one is at San Francisco for them.
Yeah.
It's look, Charbonnet 2 weeks ago, 14 carries, 47 yards, 4-4 in the air. And I believe that was the first game that Kenneth Walker missed. I'm not touching the Seattle backfield. Not going up against San Francisco. That ain't happening. So my options are Zeke or Mostert, and I'm going to take Mostert just because it's going to be sure, volume. Zeke's probably going to get 20 touches. Mostert's probably going to get 20 touches. But what Mostert does with his touches and his opportunity is more than what I think Zeke will do, even though I do think Zeke gets in the end zone tonight.
Yeah, agreed. I think
let
I'd
me
rather
butt
have
in,
10
though.
Mostert
Wasn't the
touches than 20
question to
Zeke
sit
touches.
one?
No, start one.
Let me butt in. Wasn't
Zeke,
the question
Mostert, or
to start one?
No, the question is Zeke, Mostert, or a Seattle backs start one.
Start one,
Mostert.
Mostert.
One was Zeke or the sit one was Zeke or Deontay.
Okay.
Yeah.
So if you're starting only one, it's Mostert.
Yeah. Okay. And that is in a PPR league as well. For Michael there. Let's see. Peter's back. I don't think anything is gonna make Hoops.
He's my last pick.
Sorry, Hoops. I didn't think anything is gonna make Hoops. is I was seeing the Z for some reason, and I saw the H, and I was, dyslexic. Here we go.
That's funny.
For some reason, I was thinking he was going to bring up something about Hopkins there. It looks like they've got a little challenge between Jamie and Michael in the chat here. I believe this is score for tonight.
Oof.
It gets better.
11-2. I mean, maybe.
It's possible.
I felt high when I said 17-10, which is crazy that feels high. But yeah, I don't know. I'll stick with.
Yeah, I think you were high.
Yeah, it could be high, which is still under. I'm still under 30.
Oh my Lord! Wow, I can't believe we've gone 50 minutes. I guess the first 15 was, talking about other stuff, but we've really talked about this game for like more than 30 minutes. And let's continue to do that. Get over to Underdog. Use the promo code GF2. And if you're fancy, you can actually scan the barcode right here, or the QR code rather, right here on this screen. Get a deposit match up to $100, 100% from $100 match over there at Underdog. So let's talk a little bit of Chrome Dome parlay of the night. Who wants to lead it off?
I can start.
Hey, you're so excited to do this.
The one I've really looked at every single bet that I could see at Underdog. There's one that I actually felt confident on. It was Deontay over 41.5. I think that's moved to 42.5 now. Not that that's a big move or anything. I'd still take the over.
42.
I think he can get there. The other one I don't feel as confident about, but it's such a low number. I have Bailey Zappi over. When I bet it was 155.5. I think it's like 157.5 now. I do the modeling for all of the games. My stuff came out this week at 169 for Zappi. It's not a high number. It's not that much of a difference from the 155 that I have. But I needed to find, just for Underdog, you have to bet both teams. So I needed to find just something on the Patriots, and that was the one that I felt not confident, but the most confident in. So I'll go Zappi over 155.5, Deontay over 41.5.
Yeah, the current line on Zappi is 161.
Oh,
wow.
Up again. Who is peppering the over on
somebody's getting a little bit of juice there.
That's because Juju's playing.
Well, I mean,
revenge
Lord.
Game.
Yeah,
revenge game. That's what it is. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. All right, Brian. What do you got for your Chrome Dome parlay of the night?
Let's just say, I'm a Steelers fan, so there are exactly 0 Patriots props. Once again, 0. I've got the Steelers minus 5.5, and then I totally agree with Steven. Deontay is going to find a way to get over 42.5 yards. No doubts in my mind. He'll actually get above 50.
See, the gods are
my
not
last
shining
all
on
based
you.
on it's all talked about the way I've talked about it all game long. I've got the over. I think it's 51.5 for Jalen Warren rushing yards, and the under for Najee at 52.5. So
And
those are my props.
So those lines, the Jalen Warren one has not moved. It's still at 51.5, but the Najee Harris is at 49.5 now.
Took a dive.
So interesting.
Wow, that's interesting.
Mm-hmm.
I honestly speaking, I'll change my bet. I say both of them go over 50 yards.
Yeah, I could see it. I can see it, especially with no Matt Judon there.
I don't know. I mean,
it's going to be a rushing game.
That Pats rush defense is really good. I mean, first in the league for all season. I know that's a whole season stat, and I haven't looked at the splits over the last couple of weeks, but I mean, first is still pretty solid.
First is good.
First is good in this sense.
First, wait. Whoa!
All my advanced stats say first is good.
Something about this game is good. Oh my goodness!
Stopping the run.
Let's get over Zeke anytime touchdown. I mean, look, it's Zeke Elliott. He can get in the end zone. We've seen it already this year.
This does imply that the Patriots score at least 6 points. I don't know if you're
again. It could still be 6-6 and a tie.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just it is what it is. Zeke gets in the end zone anytime touchdown. I'm on the other side of the Deontay deal here. I think Pickens actually gets a little bit of run. Last week he had 58. 2 weeks ago he had 58 yards. Last week 86 yards. Some of that was with Trubisky in the lineup last week. 39.5 receiving. I'm going over there. Like I said earlier, I like to bet the over, but when something slaps you in the face, you absolutely have to pay attention. I'm going under 183.5 for Trubisky. I'm also going under 160.5 for Zappe. Now, I know the numbers that Steven put up and then the ones I put up for Zappe are 5 yards or so off. That's because Steven actually did the smart thing and went and looked at it early in the week and got that number where it was a lot better for him to do the over. Now, we did talk about this, and we've come to a conclusion that we can hit all of these tonight. All we need Zappe to do is get 157.
Exactly. 157 passing yards. So that's what the Gambit's rooting for tonight.
Okay,
Bailey
so
Zappe,
we're going
157.
157 yards is going to be the exact number that Bailey Zappe hits tonight. Now go bet that.
Yeah, like what are the odds on that? Exactly hits 157.
I want to. You know what? Screw it. I'm gonna look. We got a second here. Zappe. Let's see if we can we get an exact line on him. I don't know if I can do that on here. 155, 169 gives me alternate. I can't get to an exact number. I wish I could. Oh my Lord. Now I want to do it. Now I'm gonna have to go and call DK and be like, I want this exact number.
I know the exact number.
I know the exact number he's gonna throw, and when he gets there, Mac Jones is coming in.
Mac Jones comes in.
All right, fellas, let's get out of here. Let's get ready for this gauntlet of a game. Brian, tell the good people where they can find you and what you're working on.
You can always find me at Vandegrad92 on X, and then along with going for two, I also do with for frequency's sake, I do a Friday night DFS podcast, which is fun when time permits. Like kind of like last week, I had a lot of other things going on, but I also do the Sunday main show from 10 to 11:30 for them.
Who is your captain tonight in your DFS lineup?
My captain has to be the one that Steven and I agree with, Deontay.
Okay. Yeah, I was looking at doing one, and I was looking at building it with Zeke, and then adding Jermichael Hastings in there because he was so cheap. You could pretty much do anything. And the only other thing I wanted to do was make sure I added a couple defenses, maybe 5 or 6 defenses as the as the flexes there.
I went contrarian and left Zeke out, and my original captain was actually Jaylen Warren. So I would either go with Johnson or Warren from my perspective.
I like it. All right, Steve, tell the good people where they can find you and what you got going on.
Yeah, so Target Shares on X, as Brian said, or Twitter. I feel like I still say Twitter. And then my article just got released today on Going for Two. So check that out. It has that graph that we talked about earlier and also a bunch of other graphs and stuff.
And this man right here can write. And like I've said all show, and no debates, he's the smartest out of the three of us, period. So.
I don't know, when we see Zappe throw for, 90 yards to get benched, not going to feel so smart tonight.
When he throws for 157, though.
157,
When he throws for 157.
Now, that would be – next week's going to be great if he actually throws for 157. We're going to throw a party on the Gambit.
Oh, yeah. We won't even talk about the game because all we did was win. All we do is win. You can find me over on Twitter because there is only Twitter. No such thing as X in my mind yet. It is Twitter at FantasyJ77. Go find me over in the Discord, Going for Two Discord. Go to the Going for Two website. Make sure you check out Steven's article. As soon as you get done reading that bottom right corner, click on the little link that says Going for Two Discord. Come join us over there. Until next week, where hopefully, we don't have a game that's going to be as good as this one. Maybe it's going to be better. We will all see you then.